Welcome to California in Focus. I'm David Mastio. Today we're talking about the latest California lawsuit over solar power to go to the Supreme Court. Joining me today is Kenneth Schrupp, California reporter for the Center Square. Kenneth, tell me about this case.
Hey, David. The California Supreme Court is going to be soon hearing this case that could determine the future of California solar energy. And this all has to do on net metering practices. Net metering is how the energy coming in and out of your house is measured by electricity companies that can figure out how much to bill you. And we have proponents of the old metering going against the ruling on the new metering, which substantially reduces the payments to rooftop solar owners.
How are owners of solar homes paid now?
Under these rules that were adopted in December of 2022 that solar owners have been suing against, owners are paid for the value of the energy that they produce, which is a lot less than the earlier standard of the net difference in quantity of energy produced and consumed. This is because solar energy produced during the day is of much lower value than the fossil fuel and battery source energy that's used at night. For some context here, there's so much solar in California that prices go negative during the day. And this means that purchasers are paid money to take the solar energy. There even is so much solar energy sometimes that the California Independent Systems Operator says that solar providers must manually curtail production because there's nowhere for that energy to safely go.
That's really confusing to me. So you're telling me that California has too much solar power already?
California has nothing it can really do with a lot of its existing excess solar during the day. So we have so much capacity that at least the utility level, it's not exactly useful to build more until we have better storage and other alternative uses, because as of now, this excess capacity isn't being put to use.
Your story said that new California homes have to have solar power. Is that right?
Yes, that is true. New California homes do have to have solar power. And I even talked to some energy experts who said that even without these subsidies, the financing of solar still does work. Energy costs are high in California. They're double the national average. Solar panels are getting cheaper and more efficient every year. If you put solar panels on your roof, they will be cost-positive investments for you, and private financing companies recognize this and will help you pay for your solar without any need for subsidies. But because of this rule change, the solar industry says there will be 40% less rooftop solar installed this year due to the new metering rules.
You talked to the Republican vice chair of the State Senate Utility and Energy Committee. What did he say?
He said that I'll read a quote here, "It's no secret the benefits of wind and solar energy are not equally enjoyed in some communities." This is coming from Brian Dahle, state senator on the Senate Utility, Energy, and Communications Committee. It's time for energy resources, renewable or not, to stand independently without offsetting costs by adding more fees and relying heavily on taxpayers' support. I did a little bit more research into this, and I found that households with rooftop solar tend to have double the median income of non-solar households. And once you remember that fact, it seems like the California Public Utilities Commission has found that solar metering costs non-solar customers $6.5 billion in 2024. And this means that 15% of the average non-solar household's energy bill goes towards paying households that do have their own solar self-generation, which means that this is really a wealth transfer from moderate and lower income Californians to wealthy Californians.
So where do Democrats come down?
Democrats continue supporting rooftop solar, and they also support major grid scale expansion of solar systems. Keep in mind that when you have huge swings in energy from intermittent sources, that you need to upgrade your whole transmission system to accommodate all of this electricity. And that with our older transmission lines, this causes a lot of risk for fire. So if we do need to expand our energy grid to handle all this new solar, that means we need to take much more in terms of wildfire mitigation efforts to make sure that we don't end up with the state on fire.
What does the case mean for utility rates going forward?
The CPUC says that this rooftop solar program is a significant driver of utility rates going up. If in the long term, this could eventually result in prices going down conceivably. But as we've seen with California's water agencies, because of conservation, they have to increase their rates by 40% over the next 4 years because they're not selling as much water anymore. You can imagine a future where California's utilities have put so much money into renewable energy infrastructure, which costs much, much more than traditional, even say natural gas powered plants, that they do need to charge a lot more for people consuming a lot less energy because they're self-generating a lot more.
The state seems to have gotten itself into something of a pickle. How much did it spend to get here?
California's solar industry estimates that $103 billion have been spent on solar energy systems in the state, much of it in the form of taxpayer funding. So if you really think about it, that $6.5 billion that non-solar households are paying to solar households is even worse than that because you're essentially getting a lot of even more wealth transfer in the form of taxation, where middle-class households are being taxed to pay for the solar infrastructure of wealthy households.
Kenneth, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more from Kenneth at thecentersquare.com.
Knowledge is power, and you deserve to know what happens in your state government. That's why the Center Square's reporting zeroes in on state authorities publishing stories that show where your money goes and who spends it. The Center Square gives power to the taxpayer by tracking politicians' use of the people's money and demanding transparency from state-run agencies. This is how the Center Square equips you, the American taxpayer, to hold your state government accountable. Sign up now for your state's Center Square newsletter at thecentersquare.com.